Hey guys, this is Brian at Obedia, and I wanted to show you today a great iPad synth that I've been playing around with a little bit and getting to know, and that I think is probably one of the best iPad synths I've ever used. That's the Moog Animoog synth app for the iPad, and I believe that this works on both the iPad 1 and 2. You may want to double check before you pick it up. But let's dive in and just talk a little bit about this synth. It seems relatively basic. You have a keyboard on the bottom, of course, but as you can see, as soon as I start to use the keyboard, you notice that at the top here I've got this XY pad controller, which actually, in addition to being a regular XY pad, sort of like what we're used to with some Korg offerings and things like that, also allows us to get really creative with our sound design, and that's one of the things that makes this really useful. All of the features of this synth are really easily accessible through a few panels on the right hand side here, and we can control our filter and we can control the orbit. And the orbit is exactly what you see. Right here, you notice that when I play a key, I get this sort of orbit in my display. And the orbit will modify the sound based on an X and a Y amount and a rate which we set. We can also sync that with the tempo which we set in the app. And then we can edit the path of how that orbit is going to make its way around the XY paths on the XY editor right here. So this is where the sound design gets really cool, because if we're in the path edit section and we decide to edit our path, we can simply click to create new points, and you can see as I click and I create new points right here, I've now created a point which my orbit is going to follow based on the settings which I have set here in the path. Now I can also choose if I want this to loop, or if I want it to go back and forth, or if I just want it to happen once, and I can set a rate for it as well. If I don't like it, I can clear it, and of course I can sync it up to the tempo as well. And then I can make some changes to the orbit. Let's go ahead and bring the rate up a little bit and change the X and the Y amount, and then when we play this, you can see that now I'm following the actual path which I drew previously. So based on the settings which I decide to make for my XY pad and my envelope and modulation matrix, I can really change the sound of what I'm working with here. So that moves us on to some of the other controls that we have in the app right here. We can change our keyboard scale, and this lets us choose between chromatic and a number of other different keyboard scales, such as major blues, minor blues, things like that. So that's for very quick and easy playing. And then we can adjust our envelope and our modulation matrix. So we have access to the amp envelope, the filter envelope, and the modulation envelope, and we can edit these more in depth by simply double clicking or double finger tapping on one of these sections. And this allows us to go in and make quick changes to each of these envelopes, and then when I'm done I can just double tap to go back. And then here I can also make changes to my LFO, and this is where I can really start to tweak the modulation matrix. The great thing about this app is that I have 4 modulation matrices, and I can route them to all sorts of different controls. So I can choose a source. So right here I can choose if I want for the source to be the LFO, the mod matrix, or the position X or position Y on my XY pad. Then I can decide what kind of control I want to use, whether that's poly pressure, channel pressure, velocity, and I also have access to mod wheel, pitch bend, and key pitch. So I can make changes to each of these and decide how much of each one I would like to incorporate. And then finally, of course, I can choose a destination for my modulation matrix, and I just simply hold my finger down and I can choose from a number of different options right here. So this allows me to do things like control the LFO rate by moving my finger around, making use of the XY pad. So based on the settings that I were to make in my modulation matrix to my LFO, various things like that, I can actually start to create a lot of different sounds. So this is really useful for being able to make really warbly, crazy sounds that on one end of my XY pad will sound relatively normal, and then as I start to make changes, they'll get a whole lot more impressive. So you can see right there that as I move further to the right in my axis, the orbit rate actually starts to change, and if I come back to the left, it actually slows down. So depending on where I'm moving my finger on the XY pad, I can actually change the orbit rate, which will change in turn the actual sound of the synth as I'm using it. And I can make changes to all of those settings. So as I look through my different modulation settings right here, you can see on modulation 4, currently my orbit rate is being controlled by the position X on my XY pad. So I can make all kinds of different changes to the synth sound just by playing around with the envelope and the modulation matrix and then utilizing the XY pad. I also have a number of timbres which I can choose from, and I can also change these by using the XY pad and some of the other modulation matrix settings which I have in the app. So that is really, really useful. And in addition to all of those different sounds which I can make with the synth, I also have access to a number of controls on the far right hand side. First one being that I can actually record my performance and then overdub onto my performance. So that's a really useful way to be able to actually record anything that I like in the app right here and be able to play back over it and create performances from there. I also have access to a delay. This is an analog style delay, so it's got the ability to really drag out the time and the feedback of it, and then of course I can control the mix. So you can see right there how easy it is to make changes to the actual record. And then I have control over the thick mix here, and this is essentially just kind of going to allow me to do some hard detuning, add some drive and distortion, and then a crush, which again will give me kind of a distortion sound. And then there on the bottom I have a multi-voice unison. I can turn that off, I can turn it to 2 voices, or I can turn it to 4 voices. So all of these different controls really allow me to get very creative with the sound design. I can also choose how wide or thin of a key range I would like to see on the bottom right here of the Animoog, and then I have access to volume and glide and also a pitch and mod wheel control here on the left hand side. So you can see there's a lot of really cool things that you can do with this synth, and I've been having a lot of fun just playing around with the various controls, especially the modulation matrix, because it's really cool to be able to go in to this app and simply start changing my destinations and my sources, and then having a lot of fun with the XY pad as a result. So there you go. I just thought I would show this off to you guys. It is available in the Apple App Store for the iPad, so you'll want to check it out. As I say, I really think that this is one of the first, best, most professional synths that I've really played around with on the iPad, and especially because of the possibilities in the sound design realm. You can really create, again, very crazy, warbly, distorted sounds, or you can get very, very simple and just have a little bit of fun with some sounds which really play very nicely. Even the default patch sounds great. So really, I dig this app a lot, and I thought I would show it off to you guys. If you have any questions about it or anything else, please feel free to get in touch with me at brian@obedia.com. on Twitter at twitter.com/obdututor, and of course on Facebook at facebook.com/obdututor. Give us a call and find out how we can help you to tame your technology, get the most out of your digital audio hardware and software, and of course even your apps on the iPad. That's what we do best here at Obedia, and I look forward to working with you guys soon. And give me a shout if there's anything you'd like to talk about. Thanks for watching, and take care.